Okay, shalom, shalom. So today we're going to cook unleavened bread for Pesach, which is Passover. Pesach is the Hebrew word for Passover. Or matzah bread or matzo bread, however you want to pronounce it. And the ingredients, the main ingredients are 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Make sure you don't use self-rising, because if it's self-rising, it's going to rise. And the point of Pesach or Passover is to eat things or bring things into our life that won't rise, basically, so our sinful nature won't rise. So we're going to add the 2 cups of all-purpose flour to our bowl. And this is a very simple recipe. 3/4 cup of water. And about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. You can use a little more depending on how crispy or how soft you want your bread to be. And always keep extra water and extra flour on hand, just in case. So we're just going to mix this up. Once it gets to a certain consistency, you want to use your hands. Okay, so now I'm going to put my hands in here. I'm going to use a little bit more flour. A little bit more flour. And you want it to be gummy but not sticky. So you see how it's a little sticky like that? So we're going to put a little bit more flour and make a ball. Make a big matzah ball or unleavened bread ball. So it's still a little sticky. So I'm just going to get some flour from the bowl. Okay. Now on our cutting board, we're going to put the ball. And you're just going to start kneading. Depending on how heavy-handed you are, I'm very heavy-handed. Put a little bit more flour on here. You want to knead anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. Baby, can you stop that? 2 to 5 minutes. But you just want to knead it. And kneading is just massaging your flour down. Massaging your dough down. And again, this is all-purpose flour. This is really sticky. Oh, it's really sticky. Okay, and again, this just brings to mind, remember that Pesach is all about the Passover lamb, which is Yahshua. So things are not supposed to be perfect. It's just he sees your efforts, and that's when Elohim will bless you. So your bread doesn't have to be perfect. It's just unleavened. It doesn't have any rising in it. Okay, so we're going to say that's good enough. So now what I'm going to do, I have my ball. I'm going to take a piece of it and flatten it out. This is really sticky, probably because I used a little bit more of the olive oil, but that's all right. So the more olive oil, actually, the more fluffier it'll be. It won't be as crispy. And then it also depends on how flat you make your matzah bread or your unleavened bread. So if you have a rolling pin, you can roll it out. If not, you can just flatten it out with your hands. I'm going to take a little piece, divide it up. If you want it, it can be super flat. It doesn't have to be, you know. Oh, hold on. Let's try this again. Hold on. I'm gonna get a little bit more flour. There we go. That's a little better. That is a little better. Even my extra flour wasn't enough. That's okay. Again, it's not about being perfect. It's just about being obedient. And this is perfect. So now with your hands, or if you have a rolling pin, you can roll your bread out, your dough out, as flat as you want it. I think this is enough because this is just for me and my son. When we do communion, we're going to do it with this. Now, if you have parchment paper, you can take the flour, you can take your dough and put it on parchment paper. If you don't have parchment paper, you can take a baking sheet or a baking pan and spray some Pam on it to get it nice and oily, so that when the bread is done, it won't stick to the pan. But try to pick this up as best as you can. And you want to move it to your pan. And again, if you have parchment paper, which is probably the best, you can put this on some parchment paper. And it doesn't have to cover the entire, I'm making mine big, but it doesn't have to cover the entire pan. Then you get you some fork. You get you a fork and you just poke holes in it. Try not to do it so hard so that you won't scratch up your pan. But it shouldn't scratch it up. And the reason why you're putting holes in it as well, although you used all-purpose flour, the holes will also help in it to stay flat. The ventilation will help the bread stay flat. Perfect. Then you put this in the oven for about 6 to 8 minutes, depending on how crispy you want it. And that's that. And then when it comes out the oven, we'll garnish it with some, you could put whatever you want to put on here. I put sea salt, pepper, and garlic because I love garlic. But if you just want to do it just for communion purposes or Pesach, Passover purposes, just leave it as it is and eat it as thus saith the word. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the oven and then we'll see you back in about 6 to 8 minutes. Alright, so our matzah unleavened bread is out of the oven. Now as soon as it gets done, you want to take it immediately off of the hot pan and put it onto a cool surface. So you can, if this is for communion or Pesach, Passover, you definitely can just eat it just like this. It's good just like this. Or if you're having it with a meal, for instance, me and my family, we're going to have part of this for communion and we're going to also eat some with our dinner, which is lamb, right? So I put a little garnishments on it. This is olive oil mixed with a little butter and a little bit of garlic. So because I put some of this garlic into the olive oil butter mix, I'm not going to use this. So I'm going to put that to the side because that's too much. And I'm just going to brush it on here. And actually what I'll do is I'll cut what we're going to use for communion. So this will be our bread for communion. I'm going to put this to the side. And this will be what we have with our dinner. So again, I'm brushing my olive oil, butter, and garlic mixture on here. And then this is just a mix of, you could put herbs and spices or however, whatever you like to put on your bread. Typically, I have parsley, a little bit of sea salt, and some lemon pepper in here. I'm just gonna sprinkle it on. And that's it. This is our unleavened bread, matzah bread. I hope you enjoy. Shalom.